Hello, everyone. It is the 22nd of September, coming to you live from Aberdeen, the Granite City. My name is Steve Smith, and I am here to give you my reactions on all the results from this week's AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, which, of course, I think I just said that it took place on the 22nd of December, didn't I? It is the 24th of December today. The event took place on the 22nd, and that's where I'm here. What do you think of the new backdrop? I'm here in the new and improved Stevie Reaction Centre. It's cool. I've got a big black curtain. And it's hat season. We're in hat season, people. It's officially hat season. It's always a good thing. Right, tweak my volumes here. As always, let's do some housekeeping before we go anywhere else in this review. Please subscribe to the Wrestlebuddy channel. Earlier, well, it was last week, aside from the AEW Dynamite reaction videos, which was one of the most watched yet, which is no, the Rampage one was one of the most shot. Regardless, we're getting loads more people watching this now, and it is really, really cool. Last week on the Wrestlebuddy channel, we dropped an interview with former WWE star James Ellsworth. It is really worth checking out. It is very interesting. He speaks highly of people and all sorts of cool stuff. We also have interviews with Doug Williams. We've got a really big interview coming up in the next few days. I was supposed to be on it, but it's going to be happening at a time where it's impossible for me to do because it would be like in the middle of it would be like at 3 a.m, and I can't do it. So the fact that I would have to be up at 3 a.m. to do this shows you how big a deal this is. It means it's someone big, so that's going to be happening. I don't know if I'm allowed to say who it is yet. All I can say is that he's really cool and you're going to enjoy it. So subscribe to the channel, chuck the notifications on. And when it drops, get it, subscribe to the channel, and also visit wrestlebuddy.com for all your wrestling news and rumours and that sort of cool stuff. We are all about wrestling. That's it. That's all you need to know. That's my advertising spiel done. I had a script. I do a script every week. Believe it or not, I do a script every week. That's what I'm looking at, by the way, when I'm looking in the camera. Like, I've got a script. That last bit was scripted. I did not read the script. It came out completely different to what I had planned. It's because it's hat season, callback, hat season. Anyway, this week's AEW was recorded at the amazing Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York. This is an arena that's more famous for tennis. This is, to my knowledge, this is the first time a wrestling event has ever been held at this venue. And it is the first time AEW have done a large arena type show. You know how like you get stadiums or a stadium show. Arena's the little one, stadium's the big one. Yeah, this is a stadium show. It's a big show. It's like how WrestleMania always goes to big places outdoors. This is a big place outdoors. This was huge. This is a huge deal for AEW. And it's also the most fans they have ever had at one event. I think it's just over 20,000 people. It was 20,177, I think the number. If I have just remembered that right, I'm going to be super impressed. That makes it the most fans at a non-WWE show on American soil since, I believe, the days of WCW. So that's how big a deal this event was. On TV, Arthur Ashe looked amazing. Like, it looked huge. When the entrances to the first match happened, I was like, man, this is like the Tokyo Dome. This is cool. This is so cool. And to make it even cooler, what they did was like the entrance ramp, instead of having a big screen at the back of the arena for the entrance videos and stuff, they did it on the ramp. The ramp had all like the video screens and stuff. It was so cool. The arena is massive, so big that it had that stadium audio acoustic effects where you don't really hear people unless they're chanting really loudly. Thankfully, for most of the show, the crowd were chanting really, really loudly, so that was not a problem. Next, on Friday, it's going to be even better. It's like we're going to have the Rampage Grand Slam show as well. That's going to be awesome. It's a big week for AEW. It's a big week for good wrestling on TV, So let's get into it. And obviously, since this is a Friday, I'm a day late this week. I had some interviews to do. I will be able to talk about the Dynamite rating at the end of the show, if I have time, which I'm going to make sure I do have time. So let's race through this like a bat out of hell, and let's get to it. The show opened up with what could be, or what could end up being, tweak my audio there, one of the match of the year, or the match of the year. Although at the moment the competition is really stiff. To be the match of the year, you would have to beat the cage match. Already on Cage Match is a site where people can rate matches and stuff. It is the top. It is in the top 3. I think it's the second best match AEW's ever had. Below the top match, by the way, is the Adam Page and Kenny Omega versus Young Bucks match. So we're up at best match. It's definitely in contention for the best match of the year in all of wrestling in America. This match was amazing. It had such a really big match feel. Really, in terms of both in-ring work and the pacing of the match, it was just fantastic. Absolute fantastic. From the way both men were working, you could tell it was going to go long. I mean, right off the bat, we were told during the entrances that this match had a 30-minute time limit. Now, all AEW matches have a defined time limit, but rarely do they make a deal of this. So as soon as they said that, I was like, oh, this is going to go to a time limit draw, is it? And I was right. I was like, yay, I was right for a change. Yes. You could, I mean, as I said before, from the way both men were working, you can tell it was going to go long as well. They worked a slow, methodical pace, and I don't think anyone even took a bump until around 10 minutes into the match, which is really good work. The first minute, they were just standing in the ring. The crowd was on fire for this. They didn't need to touch. They didn't even touch, and people were chanting, "This is awesome." It was just awesome, and the match flew past. It was one of those situations where time really did fly because we were having fun. The 30 minutes felt more like 15. Never was this boring. Bryan Danielson got to show why he was always seen as one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world, before he went to WWE. And Kenny Omega, well, he was Kenny Omega. He is also one of the best in the world, and we got to see the cleaner in all of his glory. And even then, the match didn't really get super, super, super quick until like the last couple of minutes, which is a testament to the pacing of the match. The crowd were so into this. Like, there was chance for absolutely everything. There's so much to this match. Like, my favourite spots of the match were Kenny Omega gave Bryan a Snapdragon onto the stage, which was like, whoa, it looks so brutal but so cool. This was then followed up. Bryan, I'm still doing it. Bryan Danielson was kind of out against the ring ropes, but on the outside of the ring. Obviously, AEW put a stage there, so you can go out the top rope and you land on a stage, not the floor. Kenny Omega took a huge run, like a run from where they come out on the entrance ramp, and hit one of the sweetest V-triggers I have ever seen in my life. Seriously, Kenny, it looked like he was flying. Like, if you watch videos of Kenny Omega hitting V-triggers, like in New Japan, he's got this thing where his last step before he takes to the air and hits the V-trigger is always like 2 meters before where the person he's hitting actually is. On this instance, it looked more like 5 meters away. He literally went bang. Like, I don't know how he does it. I would love to see Kenny Omega doing the long jump in athletics. It would have to be good, you know. He also hit Bryan with a top rope Snapdragon, which in theory sounds like one of the most terrifying moves you can hit with. Okada took that off the top rope. I think it was Okada or Ibushi took that off the top rope and landed it like they normally would land it. And by God, that looked horrible. Like, in a good way, just so savage. Bryan, though, being as good as he is, he managed to take this bump in the safest way possible. I think he took it on the front, which the commentators even mentioned. Impressive. Bryan also hit Kenny with a gigantic avalanche backdrop from the top rope. In my opinion, this was a much scarier bump to watch than the Snapdragon because both men are going down blind. They took a really high arc. They got a lot of air. It was such a good match. Such a good match. I love that there was no interference or funny business in this match either. And there was no Kenny playing as being a heel. I mean, obviously he was a bit heelish when he was walking around, but there was no funny business. There was no heelishness really. It was just a very serious match and honestly one of the best one matches I have ever seen since the Kenny Omega versus Okada matches in New Japan. I mentioned the pacing before. Like, I learned about wrestling pacing and wrestling matches and what leads to being a good match from people. Because I used to go to wrestling school years ago. I went there for ages and also like helped out backstage at shows and stuff like that, sitting on like the gorilla position a lot. I used to play the music. It was quite cool. I got to play Billy Gunn's music, which was the full DX entrance. That was awesome. I digress though. Yeah, and they really told, like, this is where I learned that sort of stuff. And watching this match, this is like a wrestler's rest. People that know, like, have been taught how matches are put together. It was just brilliant from that side. It's just pretty much, like, in my opinion, that match was pretty much flawless. There was no flaws in it. It was just really good. Bloody good. The draw, the result, obviously it ended in a time limit draw. While a draw will always get a negative sort of reaction from people, but it was probably the best way to end this match. It's not the end, you know. I really liked that, even though they did the draw and there was a little bit of booze and stuff. As soon as the match ended, the Super Elite, that's Bucks and Cole, they came out and attacked Bryan, gave him a triple super kick, and they took what negativity existed for the draw finish and they took it and put it all onto them. They got the heat and the heat went on them. It was a brilliant way to do it. It was a brilliant way to avoid possible crowd backlash from that, because anyone that was booing for that, they instantly changed and started booing them. And it was a massive reaction to the super kick as well. Massive amount of heat. Really, really good. My only criticism with this match was not in any part with the wrestling, because the match was brilliant. It was just with the commentary. I feel that they should have mentioned the time running out a bit more, as the match really flew by. It did not feel like half an hour, but never in the match did they comment about the time running out, or like we're 15 minutes left, 10 minutes left. Now, Justin Roberts was given the time cues from outside the ring, like he always does in matches, but it was really hard to hear that on TV. I could just hear him saying brr, 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 brr. Yeah, I couldn't make out what he was saying, and I think it would have been better if they made a point of the time running out. It would have led to a little bit more excitement from the people watching in TV. Cause those in the arena knew the time was running out because Justin Roberts were there. On TV, so the TV side of things, we didn't really hear that. It would have just added a little bit more excitement to the build to the time limit finish, you know. Now, this is a really small nitpick, but a tiny nitpick. I just feel that it would have been cool if they mentioned it. That said, they did start mentioning it 45 seconds before the end, and that last 45 seconds was brilliant. It's like they paced most of the match in a way that was kind of slow and methodical, but that last 45 seconds, they went for it. Hell for leather, as they say. So good. I've seen criticism of the draw happening on social media. This is the benefit of doing this on a Friday, actually. I've been able to see a lot of the responses people have had. The fact is, draws happen. For some, they are not the most satisfying ends to matches, but what we need to remember is that this is not the end of this. There's no way this is the end of the feud. This is the start. One of the highest rated runs of matches was the New Japan Okada Omega feud. Like, I've seen them all. They were outstanding matches. And one of them, at least one that I can remember, ended in a 60-minute draw, and it was one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life. It can happen. The only thing is, we're used to being in the whole wrestling bubble where wrestling is WWE, and they do not do fit draws, ever. They will not do a draw. They would rather do a double DQ and end it with something that gets a different sort of heat. They don't like the crowd response for draws. My view on this is I would much rather have 30 minutes of solid wrestling and a draw that leads to a bigger match than a shady finish or a DQ. If this was a one-off match or a blow-off match to a feud or a title match, yeah, I would be annoyed. But as it was, it wasn't. Strap yourself in, because this is going to be awesome. I can see this going to a 60-minute draw, and then it'll either go to a third match where the winner gets the title, or Kenny will win the third match, then Bryan will come back and win the fourth match, and it'll be amazing. It's going to be good. Like, trust me on this. Next up, CM Punk came out to cut a promo. He got a massive reaction as well. People are singing Cult of Personality now. I think this is a great touch. All-round happiness and positivity. In short, Punk comes out. He's like, how do I follow that? in reference to the Bryan versus Omega match. And he's not wrong, it's pretty impossible to follow that match. The promo he cut was to build his match on Friday's Grand Slam Rampage. In short, again, I said that again twice, he's going to put Powerhouse Hobbs to sleep. People loved this. I expect the crowd to be on fire for this match, because remember, this match was taped after Dynamite. In many respects, Rampage looks like it may be an even more entertaining show than Dynamite was. It's 2 hours long. It's going to feel like a episode of Dynamite. I think it's going to be a better show. There's some potentially more entertaining matches. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be better matches, as in match quality, like as in the opener match, but I think they're going to be, it could be an all-round better, more entertaining show, you know? Pay-per-view and TV shows are different sort of things, and this show had a pay-per-view feel to it. Absolute pay-per-view feel. I mean, it wasn't structured like a normal episode of Dynamite in the slightest. Usually there's between 11 and 14 different segments, promo videos and stuff that they use through the show. This week it was just 5 matches and a few video packages, short and sweet. Next up, there was the match between MJF and Brian Pillman Jr. There was huge heat for MJF here. People hate him, and we love to see it. This was a fun match. We really got to see the technical brilliance on MJF on display here. He was always in the right place at the right time in this match. Whenever he thought the crowd were getting tired or getting quiet, he lit them up and he knew how to do it. This is really good. We've seen MJF in many pay-per-view matches, and we know that he has the skill, but we've never seen Pillman in this sort of match, in this sort of big match, and he absolutely proved he's ready for matches of this caliber. He put on a great showing. It was a fun match. It was a really fun match. Obviously, they were trying to follow that first match, which is impossible. I feel bad for them there, but it was a fun match. It included MJF threatening to hit Julia Hart. Friedman got the win via the salt of the earth in the middle of the ring. The crowd just were all over MJF. His mum and dad were in the crowd with anti-MJF signs. Nice touch. It's a really good match. I don't know if this feud's going to go anywhere after this. I mean, it would be cool if it did go somewhere, but it was good to see Pillman Jr. having good matches and being in singles matches. But MJF, I feel, needs to start building to something bigger, whether it's a title or a bigger feud or just something. He needs to do something. Well, he's great at what he does, and he's probably the most over-heeled on the show. He's really not been doing much since the Jericho feud, and even then he's not been doing that much. He's just been in these big feudy sort of things. Maybe he's their feud guy. Who knows? They need a feud guy. I think it would be good. I think he needs to start going for a title. The only problem is the titles are all held by heels at the moment, so how does that dynamic work? I don't know what's going to happen here or where it's going to happen. I'm interested, but I don't know where he's going to fit into things at the moment. Once we've got a face champion, whether it's on the TNT title or the AEW heavyweight title, then absolutely I could see MJF going for the title, but I could not see him going for the title as a heel because he just cannot be a face. MJF would not work as a good guy ever. We then went to a quick backstage promo with Jericho and Hager. They are ready for their match on Rampage against Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, aka the Men of the World, Men of the Year. They tell Dan Lambert to bring some of his UFC meatheads with him. It will be interesting to see if Dos Santos and Arlovsky are back for Rampage and whether they will get involved. Frankly, I would hate to get hit by Dos Santos. I remember him. I was a fan of him when he was at his peak. Bloody hell, he was tough. I really liked Dos Santos. Next up was the Cody Rhodes versus Malachi Black match. This was another good match, but man, there are a lot of talking points in this match. Mainly in relation to Cody Rhodes. Now, and the reactions he got, because he was booed out of the building. There are a few ways to look at this. It could be that Malachi is just too over to be a heel. People really love his persona, and no matter what evil stuff he has done to Cody or his friends, people just don't want to dislike him because he's just too cool. His character's too bloody awesome, and he's just so good in the ring. And it's like they've tried to make him a heel. He has tried to make himself a heel, but what has happened is he has organically just became like the crowd's chosen anti-hero. Really cool stuff. But yeah, I don't know about this for Cody, you know, because a few weeks ago we spoke about the Cody retirement spot and how it felt like a really good way to get people to boo Malachi. And it worked at that time, but now that effect seems to have worn. It was actually on the Wrestlebuddy podcast I spoke about that. You have to check it out. It was the one that came after the first Malachi versus Cody match. I cannot tell if Tony Khan is building to Cody being a heel and they're currently baiting the crowds into booing Cody so they can get this response, or if it's just people have just somehow I don't understand it. I don't know why people don't like Cody anymore. I think he's great. But the people just really, really want to boo him now, you know? It's strange. Anyway, the match itself, no matter your view on Cody Rhodes, was fun. The reaction at the start gave me a real Hogan versus Rock vibe to this match, you know, where they both started, one was the heel, one was the face, and at the start the crowd reaction forced them to change what happened. And I think both workers felt the same. You could see Black telling Cody, this is the House of Black, which I liked. That was a really nice touch. And it did look in parts that Cody pivoted the way he worked to seem more heelish, you know. He seemed more like it's hard to describe, you know. Heels work a certain way, faces work a certain way, and in this match it did seem like Cody changed his style to be a little bit more heelish. Well, I don't know whether this is related to the reaction they got at the start or not. If it is, well done on them. The finish to this the match was really good. A lot of good stuff in this match. The finish was interesting though, and we're going to skip right to that because we've got loads to talk about. Arn Anderson was on the apron. Now, I don't know what happened here, right? Arn Anderson was on the apron, then he fell off. I don't know if he slipped for real or if it was just part of the story, but he fell off on his ass and he got back up, which it may be by accident because it did look like Cody and Malachi were delaying slightly while he got up. He got back up and Cody was thrown into Arn Anderson, who was knocked off again, took a big bump off the apron. The finish then came. Cody was distracted. Black got knocked outside of the ring. While he was outside the ring, he went under the apron and he obviously got ready to do his finish. When they got back in the ring, Cody was hit with a mist. He spat mist in his face and he got the win. Simple as that. It was a good match, but the crowd reactions made it a really strange match. You know, it will be interesting to see where both men go from here. Whilst Malachi is a character you would expect to be a heel, he is one of the more over workers on the show. I don't think him being a heel is going to work. I think they just need to put him out there destroying people, just being like a person who's not a heel or a face. He's just the evil. People love the House of Black gimmick. People are all playing into the whole House of Black thing. So no, I think he probably needs to start working towards a title. Maybe the TNT title, maybe the world title. I think it would be better if he went for the TNT title. Just because, why not? There's enough happening in the world title picture at the moment where if he went into there, he would get lost quite quickly. Whereas the TNT title, there's always a lot happening there. Be good to see him going for that. Or just have him coming out, doing the entrance, telling people, welcome to the House of Black, and giving people the big black mass kick. Or I don't know if it's got a name in AEW yet. In that same vein, I have no idea where Cody goes from here. The most obvious route is a complete heel turn, as the way things are now with the crowd, his persona as a face is not working. The crowd want to boo him, so in this case, it is best to just give the fans what they want, embrace the boos that are coming to Cody, make him a heel, have him turn heel on someone, do something dastardly, turn heel, get him to knock out Arn Anderson or something like that. The response will be awesome. Cody will get booed out of the building. Job done. Everyone will be happy. We got a quick Sammy versus Miro video package building their TNT title match next week. Miro was great in this as usual. He admitted that in 2012 he broke his neck, but God and his wife put him back together. Such a good promos. Every week his promos are blooming awesome. Next up, we had the Sting and Darby Allin versus FTR match. Now, this was not a match that was high on my priority priorities. I just thought it was just a match, but this really impressed me. It was super entertaining. FTR came out with NWO themed gear on, which was a really nice touch, obviously going against Sting, playing into the history. Sting and Darby Allin were so over. The reaction both of them got was something else. We got the full Sting entrance with the snow and everything, which I love. It never gets old, a bit like Sting, apparently. As I said, it was a fun match. FTR looked brilliant in this. They put on a real tag team wrestling clinic in this. And Sting, Darby Allin was as awesome as always. And Sting was on another level here. It's hard to believe he is 62 and he has a history of spinal stenosis. He was just awesome in this match. FTR just looked, as I said, they just looked great. They're such a good tag team. Such a good tag team, both psychology-wise and work-wise. It was a really entertaining match. The finish came when Sting got Dax in the Scorpion Deathlock. Darby hit the coffin drop onto the apron, onto Cash to stop him getting into the match and breaking up the submission. Darby and Sting won. Personally, I have no problems with this. I thought as it was a fun match. It's not building to anything specific, and everyone in the arena loved it. It got a great response. Now, I've seen many people online that are unhappy that Sting got the win over FTR, the old man and his son getting the win. It's a pretty valid view, frankly. My only counter to this is that the aim of the show is to entertain, and regardless of who won in this match, everyone looked awesome. And the inclusion of Sting, not just Sting, but an bizarrely on-form Sting, added to the match, and it just gave everyone the rub in it. I don't think Sting or Darby Allin should be beating anyone for tag titles at the moment, or maybe in general, but I have no problem with this at all. It was very entertaining, and everyone who was involved was just elevated up a little bit more thanks to the inclusion of Sting, an on-form Sting. 62 and not. Can you believe that? It's hard to believe. And lastly, with 3 minutes to go, the main event, Britt Baker and Ruby Soho for the AEW Women's title. Initially, I was surprised to see this match as the main event, but the more I thought about it, I realised that this is the only title match in the show, so it was only right for this to be the main event. And man alive, what a main event this was. I thought this match was great. Really, really good. Much like the opener, this match had a huge big match feel. The crowd were all about it. Loads of big chants. This is definitely the best work I've seen from Ruby Soho ever. It's a great match. Fantastic work by Ruby Soho here. Both men got a great reaction from the start. The crowd had a huge Ruby Soho DMD chant, and they were chanting the whole way through. They were super into this. The match followed a basic wrestling format, shine, heat, cut off, hope spots, finish. It was basic, but it was flawlessly basic, it was really, really good. That's all the match needs to be. Ruby looked great at the start, then Britt took control, so hit a dive to the outside onto Rebel and Hater, and then it all broke down into what you would expect from a title match. False hope spots, false finishes, all that sort of malarkey. It was really good. The match broke down. It was a really nicely paced match, perfect for in every sort of aspect, really. Britt had control for most of it. Soho never looked like she was out of the game, My favourite aspect of the match is, like I've said before about matches, it felt like a battle. It felt like both women were in a real fight for a title and they really wanted to win. I've said this a million times. This is all wrestling needs to be. I was able to suspend the kayfabe reality and was sucked into the moment, sucked into the battle, because I believe they were struggling to win a title. Brilliant. The biggest move of the match, in my opinion, was an absolutely sick avalanche air raid crash from the top rope by Britt on Solo. I literally gasped at horror at this. It was so brutal. Soon after this, Britt also hits Ruby with a really, really cool curb stomp for a 2 count. Really cool. The finish to this match came after Soho hit her no future finish on Britt, but Rebel jumped up to the apron. Ruby then hit Rebel with the no future kick, but Jamie Hayter jumped up on the other side of the apron. She distracted Ruby. She managed to get her head and pull her down onto the rope, still while the ref's back was turned. This allowed Britt to just grab her arm, lock her in the lockjaw for the finish. Britt Baker kept the title via some underhanded heel tactics, but it worked. I guess it was much like the opener. This is not the end of the feud. I could see this build into a much bigger match at Full Gear, perhaps a cage match so that Rebel and Hater can't get involved. That would make most sense. All in all, This was a really good match and a great way to end this show. So, like I said at the start, Soho had their best performance maybe ever, and Britt, well, she always looks great. She looked awesome in this match. In my opinion, it was an outstanding show. I've maybe seen better Dynamite shows, but this is an outstanding show in terms of match quality. Mainly the first match. I think this had some of the best matches we've seen on television in a long time. Like, really, the only match I could compare to the Bryan Omega match on American TV, which comes close to it, was the 2013 match between Cena and CM Punk, which happened on Raw in the lead up to WrestleMania. If you've not seen that match, go watch it. It's most notable for the fact that CM Punk hits John Cena with a pile driver in a WWE match, which I remember watching that match live. I was like, what the hell? This is amazing. It's the only match I've seen on TV that comes close to the Bryan Omega match. Both really good in equal ways. That was a much longer match. Now, what's even more exciting is the fact that this was only the first half of Grand Slam. On Friday's Rampage, we're getting more awesomeness, including the Eddie and Moxley versus Suzuki Gun. That's Minoru Suzuki and Lance Archer match, which is going to be a lights out match, which means it's just going to be insane. I cannot wait for that. I have avoided all spoilers. As promised at the start, let's get it, because we're a minute over. Let's go 3 minutes over. Let's have a quick look at the ratings before we go. Where is my graphic? Please, here we go. The graphic is there. The ratings were in really good. Dynamite took the top spot overall on Wednesday Night Television, achieving a 0.48 in the key 1849 demo. Now, that was just beat by WWE this week, who, by a ball hair, they had 0.49 in the demo this week. Dynamite had a 48. Great week for wrestling all in all. Dynamite had a total viewership of 1,273,000, which is pretty damn good, to be honest. Dynamite seems to not go under 1 million these days. When they're at 1.2, that's a really good rating. As I said, it's a great week for wrestling on TV. Even NXT got a decent rating this week, which is brilliant to see. So, with that said, get rid of the thing. Let's wind up this week's review. Please click like, because it helps. Leave a comment. Tell me what you thought of this week's Dynamite show and what you think Rampage is going to be like. But don't leave spoilers or I'll be annoyed. Subscribe for more. Subscribe to Wrestlebuddy, because there's loads of content on this channel all the time. And join me tomorrow, 1 p.m. UK time. That's on the Saturday, for my review of Grand Slam Rampage. This is not goodbye. I'll see you all tomorrow.